The Monkey is a new film from Osgood Perkins. It is about a monkey, a scary monkey, a deathly monkey, but also a funny monkey. Funny, chunky monkey dunk. But today we're talking about the film The Monkey, and they did something really cool, something that I think is important for horror films, more importantly, horror directors. Very light spoilers for The Monkey. I'm not really getting into the movie too much. It's a good film. Spoilers, okay, not really. I'm just talking about like the themes of it. Pretty much this film, way more comedy than I expected. This film is almost, I'd say, 50-50 comedy horror. The beginning of the film leans a lot more horror, but by the end, some of this stuff is like so intentionally funny, and it works 100% in its payoff and its execution. It's a very funny film. Never did I think I would see a time where Osgood Perkins movies are making more jokes than the Marvel movies. What a strange time we're in.
You know what? You're right. And that's a good thing.
But I think this is a good decision, right? I went into this film thinking this movie was going to be similar in tone to that of Longlegs, right? Because that is the last film that Osgood Perkins has made, and I'll admit, it's the only Osgood Perkins movie that I've seen. I was expecting something similar to that, and for the first, probably 15 minutes, that's what I got. But then, like I said, it takes a turn. It starts to get funny. And while at first I was like, I'm not sure how I feel about this, after sitting with it for a little bit, I feel good. I feel happy with the direction this goes. I think it's a good direction too for him as a director, because Osgood Perkins in the mainstream, I feel like, is just starting to blow up with that of Longlegs. And now what he's done with The Monkey is automatically just jumped off that, I'm not bound to one genre. I'm not bound to one style of film. And I think that's going to help him so much going forward, because we see that sometimes directors who just make a few films in a similar genre or a similar niche, and then they just get pegged down to that one thing. They're stuck doing that. And that gets a little tricky in terms of producers and studios funding their projects and giving them faith and credit in trying something new later down the line. And by trying something new with like his second, I'd say big, like more publicized release, I think it sets him up to try new stuff in the future. It sets him up to say, hey, let me try something new, because look what I did with The Monkey, and it paid off. It worked, because like I said, the comedy is really good in this film.
Whatever you want, pal. Whatever you want.
Also, it's just good to see him take on a variety of different projects. I think that's good for directors, filmmakers in general, anyone to not get complacent in their medium, to try something new, right? That's why I don't really have issue with a lot of directors jumping from, horror to the MCU, or from, a comedy like a Taika Waititi situation to the MCU, a Scott Derrickson situation to the MCU. I think that's cool, because I think working on that scale, working in that environment, I think it's good. Even if it's not a success, I think it's a good practiced thing to get them thinking, get them innovative. I think same thing with Chloe Zhao. While Eternals wasn't like a phenomenal film, I thought it was good for her. And I think that she is the best part of that film in the way it's shot. Eternals is a good looking film, dude. I stand by that. There was some editing in this film that I also think is crazy. It's a film that makes you appreciate the editing, because I think a lot of the best jokes and different styles like that come from the editing and the way it's cut and the narration. It feels almost like The Sandlot-esque in that narration. I don't know what it is. It just gives me that kind of vibe of like, back when I was a kid, this happened. Kind of like that more than the second half of the film, just because I like that narration. I think that's where the film really works in its best, but that second half is still good. It's different, far more comedy based. I feel like that second half is, but still it works. And even more so, me saying, oh, there's a lot of comedy in the film, that does not mean there are not some genuinely well directed and just set up pieces of horror in the rest of the film, especially around the monkey itself. And that's a tough thing to do also, is to juggle that balance of comedy and horror. Not everyone can do it right. Some people do it and it comes across a little cheesy, a little phony, a little fake, and it just doesn't blend the genres well.
How can I get in trouble for patting down an old lady? It's standard procedure.
Some directors do it really well. Jordan Peele is the latest example of someone that's doing it really well, but also Scott Derrickson, not to keep glazing The Gorge, but Scott Derrickson did it with The Gorge. Another great example. And I also think that is the test of a really good filmmaker, someone who can balance different genres, different styles of film, different thematic elements. And I think that that's what you see in a lot of the best working directors today. A Martin Scorsese, a Quentin Tarantino, people like that, people who jump around to different genres, different styles. And I think that this is a phenomenal start for Osgood Perkins. Again, I don't want to you know, discredit everything else he's done, just saying, oh, Longlegs and the Monkey. But still, this is a phenomenal start for his career in like the mainstream, if you know what I'm saying. And I can't wait to see what he does next. I'm looking forward to it. You should see The Monkey. It's a really good film. It's funny. It's got some spoofs. Theo James is pretty good in this film. It's just silly, dude. You don't see a lot of horror films that are silly anymore, and that's a bummer. Back in the day of like the slashers, we got more campy movies. Oh, Jason and Freddy, they got campy, they got like intentionally funny. And I feel like horror is taking itself so seriously outside of, you know, maybe some Radio Silence films, maybe a Jordan Peele film here and there, which still take themselves seriously, but they're not super serious all the time. They don't feel like they have to be super serious.
I got him.
Sammy, those are fucking onions.
Well,
And I think this is yet another example of a film of a director that's not afraid to, okay, yeah, we'll be scary, but also we'll be funny, we'll give them some laughs. That's okay. It's okay to laugh in your horror film. I think that It really was It. I always have to like clarify. I'm talking about the film It. That is one of the earlier films, it's a decade ago almost, good lord, 8 years ago. Film to be like, look, it can work. It can be funny. It can be scary. Granted, it not targeted for like a die-hard horror fan. It's not that scary of a film, but you get what I'm saying. It's still a spooky film.
do you use the same bathroom as your mother?
Sometimes, yeah.
Then you probably have crabs.
And yeah, that's pretty much my thought on this film, on The Monkey. Osgood Perkins, great film, great cast, recommend it. One of my favorites of the year so far. That's the video. Thanks so much for watching. Hit subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. Goodbye. Have a good weekend.